Oh, hi. This is Pete Allan, and I come to welcome you to the first edition of a new feature on my YouTube channel called Coffee and Curmudgeon. It's a thoughtful way to start the day. Now, today being the first installment of this feature, I thought it would be a good move to get to know my audience better and let them get to know me. Okay, today I'm going to be interviewed by Mr. Charles Powers of Powers Services so that my channel subscribers can get to know who I am, and what I'm really all about. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Pete Allen. We'd like to get started here with this interview. Thank you for having me this morning.
Oh, you're welcome.
First question. Who is Curmudgeon on Patrol?
Well, Curmudgeon on me, Pete Allen. I'm Curmudgeon on Patrol. And maybe you would like to know. Well, I'll let you ask.
What does Curmudgeon on Patrol represent?
It represents a curmudgeon, myself, who patrols society looking for opportunities to fulfill his work purpose. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'm a curmudgeon. It's my job to kick sand on everything you love and believe in, to show you that life is not what you think.
Very well said. Next question. What is your entertainment experience?
Oh, well, essentially, most of my experience is in writing. I was employed by the Dossie Company in the 80s to do assorted makeup jobs,
What kind of writing did you do in that time?
It varied depending on what the job was. I worked on a pilot for Up All Night in the 80s in the beginning, so I have that kind of experience. But my real love is radio.
I see. Have you been on radio before?
Just in amateur productions, but I have a project in the works called Radio Noir, which I hope to launch soon, which gives the TSA refuses to leave me alone.
There you go. Okay. Now, does the Curmudgeon on Patrol have any limit to unfolding the truth?
No, we definitely, and I know this is going to sound like a cliche, but I just refuse to compromise the truth to make a friend. And it sort of slims down my friendship list. But no, there isn't anything that I would.
Well, it may slim down your friendship list, but from what I've personally seen on YouTube, you do have other allies, don't you?
I think I would call them fellow travelers.
Okay.
And there are a number of them. The Amazing Atheist, top rate, absolutely good. And one of my personal favorites is Mr. Repsion. He is he is delightful. He truly is.
Do you think you guys would ever get together in the future for like a one-on-one interview?
I don't know. Anybody that's involved in any kind of show business will tell you it's oftentimes it's the times when you're succeeding that are the hardest to schedule around.
That's understandable. And speaking of show business, now you said you have an interest in radio. You've had prior experience as a writer and currently still writing, of course. Now, what other show business options are you pursuing?
Well, it's a pretty long smorgasbord table, especially here in Hollywood. And I mean, for me to sit and pick them off would take all
Well,
afternoon.
give me the top three three or four.
The top, well, there's public appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's management. There's talent management. And then there's the wonderful platform of the internet.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, does the diversity of topics become complex, compelling, or commercial? Or does it cover pretty much all three?
It covers all three, and most importantly, it covers entertainment, because that is my main function. I'm an entertainer, and there's nothing wrong with that. You folks out there in Iowa, we are not the devil's handmaids.
As that, whatever they may say about that, but that's a different topic. Okay, now what are your top three subjects or topics that you find true compassion with? What really is like gut wrenching, or you really makes a mark in your heart that you really want to emphasize on to the public? The top three.
Top three. Well, there's I three things that I have compassion for, that fill me with compassion, are number one, the empowerment of women, which would solve many of the world's problems if women had an equal participatory role to play. And then, of course, I am a defender of the environment and the animals that live in it, even the human animals. And I really dislike stupidity. I think stupidity should be a crime for which you can lose your right to vote. You see these people every day in the news, just total wackos.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's not only amazing, it's alarming.
Yes.
And what's really frightening is not their madness and whatever, it's that they can vote. These lunatics can cast a vote and spend your money and my money and everybody else's money on their garbage.
That's the scary part of all.
Absolutely.
Now, what do you think the most important topic is that is always in need of discussion?
Fairness, equality. No matter how long the human race continues to exist, there are always going to be people who will not get with it and realize we live on the same little dirt ball, and we're going to have to learn to get along, whether we like it or not. And so that has to be taught to every generation. It's obviously not hot-wired.
Now, getting back to the radio, what do you think, or who do you think, is the most important figure regarding radio personalities, and tell me why, or tell us why.
Radio personalities.
You're the most important figure that covers all areas, and why?
That's a really
If
difficult.
you can narrow it down to one person. I mean, what you may be a personal influence, or generally speaking.
Well, here's where I get to be a heretic. I'm not really keen on the idea of cults of personality. I mean, they have a value, but the value is purely monetary. How can I put this in a way that won't make me sound outrageous?
Oh no, sound outrageous. This is what the Curmudgeon on Patrol is all about.
Well, yeah,
Right?
that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Well, you have to understand my perspective on people. And I know this is going to come as a shock to some people. Not anybody who knows me. They're ready for it. I consider the large portion of the human race to essentially be cash registers for my use. Ring the bell and take the money.
Absolutely.
That they have the intelligence of a pop-up toaster and more disposable income than Crassus. And yet, when you take them, everybody goes, "Oh, for shame on you." What do you think they're there for? Scenery? In your Christian God's plan, they have to have a part.
Now that's religion and another topic, but we'll get
That's
to that in
another.
the
So
future. Not a
we
problem. So
won't
stay
get
tuned,
into
folks,
that.
for this one.
But and yeah, it's that way all the time because essentially Americans are what I call pilers. From the earliest, when you get born in this country, they issue you a rake,
Hmm.
and you begin raking stuff together when you're a child, and it contains everything of value that you can get your hands on. And this pile gets bigger and bigger, and you're encouraged to keep getting it bigger and bigger, because the bigger the pile, the bigger the man.
So why is it that others don't stand up for what they believe in?
Well, I
Or
think
mostly other people. Some do, but
some
for the
do,
majority.
but well, the majority, uh, as Eric Blair, also known as George Orwell, said in 1984, the proles were so crushed by the daily drudgery of their existence that it never entered into their mind that things could be different. And that's pretty much what you see in the United States.
Okay, well, speaking from the past, as you just recently mentioned, what is the purpose of discussing topics that seem to be irrelevant from past exposure?
Well, every topic is relevant. And there are people who will be interested in discussing it, even if it's been proven that what their opinion is wrong. And there's a great example of that. His name escapes me, but he was one of the discoverers of the human genome, a highly educated, sophisticated scientist who nonetheless is a creationist. And the creationists always like to pull people like him up and say, there, see, here's an educated scientist. He believes in creationism. What does that tell you? Well, it tells me that even highly educated and sophisticated people can be delusional.
Absolutely.
And it's just the way it is.
Right. Now, when you do speak and or interview other people, do you find it easy or difficult when interviewing other guests?
It's generally, well, first of all, I select my guests carefully. And
And why is that? Are you maybe quote unquote afraid of not inviting the right guests, or they're going to say something wrong, or what?
no, that's not it. It's,
Because you want, don't I feel maybe a person would like to be well rounded and getting different opinions, but you're the
well,
curmudgeon, so.
that's right. I'm the curmudgeon on here, and I'll tell you why.
All right, please do.
First of all, I don't debate religionists. I side with Richard Dawkins, who also doesn't debate the creationists, because it only gives them a platform to spread their misinformation.
Which
And-
entitles people like you, sorry not to interrupt you, but it entitles people like yourself to spread that, as well as to give you something to feed on even more. The reality part of it.
Well,
What they're not, what they think, right?
I'm not quite sure I understood the question.
Okay, for example, you're talking about the religious topics or people, they're spreading around their
Disinformation,
ignorance, whatever it is.
ignorance.
Ignorance. So, therefore, it gives you also a platform to come in and say, okay, get out of this fairy tale or fantasy land thinking this is reality here. So this gives you a platform as well, too, which is a good thing. Don't you think?
Well, it is a good thing, but you have to understand the individuals you're dealing with. The true believers refuse to wise up, and they never will. So it's really a waste of your time to try to show them by reason, evidence, whatever. And this scientist I was mentioning, he himself said, was asked, if you could be shown that what you believe in creationism is not true, if there could be scientific proof finally that the creationist story isn't true, would that make you change your mind? And he said, no,
Ah,
because the scriptures tell me this.
gotcha.
You see, the power and the control of the myth is so great, you almost have to consider it as a legitimate idea because so many people are sucked into it that it's like second nature. It's like covering your nakedness, you know. And you have to learn how to. Fighting it is not the answer.
Balancing, do you think, is another good word for it? Or
I say exploit.
oh, there you go.
I've said this I don't know how many times, but every one of those ignorant yahoos has got at least $3 in his pocket, and if you're smart enough, you can get your hands on 2 of them.
And what's the other dollar for then?
Bus fare so they can come back to the next meeting and give you more money.
There you go. Okay, let's do a recap before we hit the conclusion of our interview. Now, is there a topic or maybe topics you choose not to discuss?
Other than my immediate physical health, no.
Okay. All right. Now, we're going to wind down with the last question for this morning. And again, in closing, I thank you very much for inviting me to do this and conduct this interview with you and for you. What are the goals for Curmudgeon on Patrol?
Well, if anything, it's to show and to continue to show that ignorance is not the answer. That answers are out there, and you have to look, and you have to be satisfied with the evidence. That's the hardest part, because faith doesn't make you do that. Faith is like a conscious decision not to think.
So that is your ideal goal?
My ideal goal, yeah, is to keep the light of doubting alive, to show that no matter how rosy it looks, there are bad parts to it. And that's why curmudgeons exist, as I said, to kick sand on all these holy and highfalutin ideas.
What a wonderful ending. So I thank you again, Mr. Pete Allan, who is Curmudgeon on Patrol.
And I thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. We'll leave it at that.
Well, that was certainly interesting. Well, right now it's time for us to get scooting out of here. So this is Pete Allan saying thanks for coming and hope to see you again. And until next time, get the hell off my roof and get those cameras out of here.
Okay, we're going.